So I've got all these little composites, these internal texture composites, in order to get the foot to look like it's underwater, right? And I think that's helpful. Now I want to take all of those. This is the beauty of digital. And I'm going to use those for the back foot as well. So I'm going to take that whole group and duplicate it, Command J, and then Command T, transform it, make it smaller, move it all, and rotate it, move it all to the back foot. And this is all just playing with the atmosphere. Right? Flatten it a little bit, put it in the proper perspective. Then I want to kind of seam where that back foot hits the water. Okay, now you see those hard edges. I want to definitely erase all of those. For this, I am going to go ahead and merge this group. And then set it all to, yeah, just normal and play with the opacity. Okay, and now I can erase it at 100% with knowing I'm safe doing that. So about there, and now I just want to, going to use a new tool here. Just like you can dodge and burn, right above the dodge and burn tool, you have the blur and smudge and sharpen tool. I'm actually going to use the smudge tool, and that's just going to allow me to push out the edges of this water and kind of blur it out. This is great for like troubling surfaces. So you want to start with hard edges and then be able to soften them. It makes a big difference. We're going to use the smudge tool quite a bit in the next project, right? All right, so now I have both feet kind of showing how they're underwater a little bit and troubling the water and how that water then extends forward. Yeah, all of this is working. Okay, now to finish it off without having to rely on just kind of the cynical add more texture fills over everything, right? Which you can always do. I can put more texture fills over everything. I can bring this down. I can spread it at the base. I can go to filter, blur, Gaussian blur, soften it out a little bit, right? Take my hard edged or my soft edged eraser at 100% opacity, really big, erase away from it. Ooh, right. And then you use this cloud at lower opacities and maybe with soft light, yeah, to kind of sell the image a little bit more. So I'm okay with all of that. Okay, but what we want to do is be able to just dodge and burn everything. So I can maybe give my creature a quick reflection, right? I can duplicate the creature, flip that duplicate vertically, hold down Shift so it locks, right? And then match its foot with the bottom of its foot at the surface of the water. And then use, I think skew will do it for me. Match the, maybe distort the back foot or warp. Nope, I need skew or distort. Let's see. This is a tricky angle of a reflection, but let's see if I can do it. So duplicate it, flip it vertically, move it down. I think I just have to angle it and then distort it so the perspective's a little different on it. You can even try the perspective tool, which is a pretty limited tool, but it might be exactly what I need in this regard. Now, all of this is just to get a little bit of reflection right at the base. Of the feet. So I can actually separate it out. Like I just want about that much of it for the back foot. So I'm going to duplicate that onto its own. And then I want about this much of it on the front foot. I'm going to duplicate that on its own. And then I can work with each of those reflection elements individually. So mirror image from the base of the water, right? And then I can just take their opacity down and soften them. So the reflection is very subtle. But there. And that helps. And it's troubled a little bit. I can use the smudge tool and mess with the reflection, you know, along the ripples. And then the back leg, same thing. Mess with the reflection a little bit of this leg. And then erase away from it. So there's lots of factors to think about with how your creature engages with that environment that are helpful. But now I want to play with the lighting. If my creature is lit from above, just like the coral is, there's going to be more shadow underneath it. And so instead of burning on the landscape itself, which is spread out over so many things, I'm going to go to the very top of everything and add a brand new layer that's empty. And I'm going to label this overlay. The reason it will be an overlay layer is because I'm going to set its mode to overlay. Now, right now, let me just set it up with normal mode. So then I'm going to take that overlay layer, I'm going to say edit fill with 50% gray at 100% opacity. So that's what it looks like when it's at normal mode. I set the blending mode to overlay mode, and it's like it's not even there. But on this layer, which I'll mark with red, I can dodge and burn. As long as I do midtones and I use a soft brush at less than 30%, I can dodge and burn anywhere, right? And it will dodge and burn everything underneath. Whether it's on the creature, whether it's on the landscape, anywhere. And that can be really helpful for evening out the lighting. So that's dodging, or that's burning rather, the shadow underneath, right? So I just did that. If I feel like I was a little too harsh with it, I can then go to Filter, Gaussian Blur, and I can soften it up a little bit, right? I can also use the smudge tool, soften it up. But if I turn it back to overlay mode, I'll see where the dodge and burn works, and I can turn it on and off. Now I can also use dodge, same thing, large soft brush, less than a 30% exposure, and I can add some highlights or some stronger lighting on the top of my creature, which helps. Right. Just the midtones. But I can also do it to the background or to the foreground where I think it needs it. And this is a way of being able to dodge and burn and edit your content without destroying it, without changing the pixels. So this is incredibly helpful. All right, next. That's my overlay layer. I want to save my progress at this point. And I'm pretty happy with that. Trying to think, oh, I want a little bit of mist covering this background mountain to help separate out the mountain from the tail. I'm going to take a chunk of this texture fill, kind of making my own cloud, duplicate it, set it to normal mode so I can see it instead of soft light, right? Maybe flip it and set it over the mountain. Maybe stretch it out. And then take my eraser at 100% opacity, very soft, very large, bite away at the edges. You're going to see how all these skills come up in our next assignment where we're creating our own clouds. You can extend it kind of over everything. And now I'll take its opacity down and I'll play with maybe soft light. Maybe take its opacity up if it's going to be soft light, right? Maybe keep it at normal. Yeah, and then just set it behind my creature, but in front of the mountain behind, and then selectively erase away, right? So now that I've gotten rid of the hard edges, go to a much softer opacity, lighter opacity, and then just start taking away loosely, right? And that helps push my creature more into the middle ground, right? Nice and in focus. So all of these different elements make a big difference. And so now I'm done. At least done for now. I'm happy with it. If I wanted to, I could duplicate that cloud I just made, move it on top of everything, right? And kind of move it down towards the middle. It's soft-edged and safe to play with, and then I can erase away from it again. So this is kind of where you can add mist in and air in wherever you want it, right? And maybe that helps a little bit. Okay, so let's say I'm finished now. I'm going to save it as my Karl Assignment 3 Creaturescape PSD. This is my working file. It's got a lot of layers now, right? And this might be helpful if I want to animate it later. I've got all these things to play with. I've got texture fills, I've got creatures, I've got them posed in different ways. I have different foreground elements I could still bring in. But to turn it in for this assignment, right now the file's over 1 gig large with all those layers at full resolution. The first thing I want to do is save it as a JPEG to the desktop that I can put up to PhotoBucket. This is my finished Creaturescape. And the idea is hopefully that it's an improvement. You've improved your creature and you've improved your landscape from assignment 1 and 2. So save as a JPEG to the desktop with my name, assignment 3. And then when I hit save, this is the great advantage to the JPEG. I want to make sure that in the preview, it's less than 4 megabytes. So that's a big difference from 1 gig to 4 megabytes. A JPEG allows you to do that. Now the next thing I want to do is turn off all the background elements. Well, actually, here's an easy way to do it. I'm going to take my overlay layer and I'm going to set it to normal mode so I can see the dodging and burning that I did. And now I'm just going to move that layer down underneath all my texture fills that I added to integrate my creature, along with the reflections, just so I can show in my portfolio clearly the stuff that I did to make my creature fit.